Hi there, Phil Simborg, USBGF Teaching Pro. Today, I'm going to offer you a little lesson on one of my favorite rolls in backgammon, the 2-1. On the opening roll, all advanced players by now know because of the rollouts that it's right to slot your 5-point with the opening 2-1. I'm in Extreme Gammon, and I've got it on unlimited games, and when I hit the plus button or any button, it's going to actually show me the rollout from the opening book. So these have been rolled out thousands of times. As a matter of fact, this particular rollout was generated by Neil Kazaros on December 16th, 2010. It tells how many games he rolled it out, 46,656 times, and it's still pretty close. It's still only an 8% error to split the back checker, but it's better to slot with the opening 2-1. I think also most people know that with an opening 4-1 and 5-1 you don't slot. And why not? Because with an opening 2-1, let's see what it looks like, your odds of getting hit are only 15 numbers where he can hit you with a 4. Let's see if that's right. He can hit you with all 4s, that's 11. Plus double 1 hits, that's 12. Plus 3-1 is 14. Plus double 2 is 15. So there's only 15 numbers that hit you. And of course, this checker could also get hit, but that can only get hit with a 6-4, which also hits this one, so it doesn't add additional numbers. So there's 15 times that you get hit, and when you don't get hit, your odds of rolling a 1, 3, 6, or 8 are so darn good that you're pretty sure to make your very, very valuable 5-point. So the truth is, you make the point about half the time. I think it comes out to 51% of the time where you don't get hit and you cover. That's a pretty good gamble, pretty good percentage. By the way, when you roll an opening 2-1, we concentrate on game plan quite a bit. Are you racing, priming, or hitting? Well, with the 2-1, one of the reasons you're not splitting the back checkers is because you're not trying to race. You're trying to get into a priming or hitting game, because when you start out with such a low number, it's likely that you're going to be down in the race and you need to prime or hit your opponent. So here's a good way to start. If you do get hit this early in the game, it's not so terrible. As a matter of fact, by being hit coming in from the bar, a 5-4 makes a great point, a 4-3, a 3-2. So getting hit gives you some options on making an advanced anchor in your opponent's board, which is going to stop him from priming and hurt his racing chances when you're up here, possibly shooting at him in the outfield if he ever gets there. Why don't we slot with a 4-1 and a 5-1? Well, the 4-1, your odds of getting hit are greater. Let's move this checker. Well, I got to put this back. I got to change the roll to a 4-1, and I've got to hit the button and show you that it's wrong. And show you with the arrow the right play is to split. If you slot, not only do you get hit with 4s, but you get hit with a 5-3 and a 6-2. So you had those 15 shots plus 4 more. That's 19 shots. And of course the double 4 hits too. But not only that, if you don't get hit, you don't have quite as many covers. Covering from 4 compared to covering the 6 is just a few less numbers that cover. Your odds of successfully making the point, I think, is around 41% as opposed to 51%. And there's another reason you don't slot with the 4-1, and that is when you make this play, the correct play, this checker's in such a great spot. Just picture how many wonderful rolls you have next time where you can use that checker. A 2-1 makes your bar point. A 6-2 makes your bar point. A 4-3 makes your 5-point. A 4-1 makes your 5-point. A 5-4 makes your 4-point. A 5-2 makes this point. And just a 4 makes the 9-point itself, which is not a bad point to have. It's pretty solid for making a prime from there. So you have so many good things that happen by having the checker there anyway. And with the 5-1, the reason that you don't slot is, again, because you don't get hit very much. You only have the 15 shots to hit this checker. But by having another checker stacked here, for one thing, you're super stacking or putting more of a stack on your 8-point, and your odds of covering with just a 1, 3, or 8 aren't as high. Again, you're only making the point, the 5-point, on the next roll about 40% of the time. I also love how the 2-1 plays on the second roll. I think this is one of my favorite lessons as well. If my opponent opens for example, with a great roll, a 3-1, I want to split these checkers. Why? Because he's trying to prime me, and because he's only got 2 checkers on the 8 point. By splitting, let's see if it's right and by how much. And again, it's in the opening book. It shows us quite a bit right to split. By splitting, now if he rolls one of his best rolls, which would be a 6-1, a 4-2, or a 5-3, he's giving me a free direct shot at the blot here because he's stripped. He only has 2 checkers here. So that's a real big sign that I want to split here. By the way, I'm also splitting with 4-1, 5-1, 3-2, 4-3. Look at 4-3 after that play. You're still splitting. You want to put pressure on these checkers right here to not make it so easy for him to prime you, because priming is what his game is all about. Let's go back to our 2-1, because that's what this is all about, really. The same thing, of course, is true if he opens with a 4-2 or a 5-3. I'm still splitting with the 2-1. How about if he rolls a 6-5? If he rolls a 6-5, I think he's playing a racing game. And I think I'm not likely to be racing with him. I need to be playing a hitting or a priming game. And now I'm going to slot. Also, notice there's 3 checkers here on the 8 point. So I don't have an incentive to try and freeze checkers here. If he rolls a 6-1, 3-1, 4-2, 5-3 next time, he's not leaving me a shot to come off of here. So I'm not putting any pressure there. This 4 also duplicates some good 4s he has on this side of the board. For example, this 4-2 is one of his best rolls to make this point, and now he's going to have to use it to hit me, because that's what he should do. If he wants to go ahead and make his point with the 4-2 and not hit me, I'm thrilled, because I'm probably going to make this point, and I'll end up with a better point than he gets out of the deal. But again, I'm slotting after his 6-5. How am I going to play a 2-1 after, well, what else? Let's see what else he could do. Let's say he splits. Let's say he rolls a roll. There's another way to, let's say he rolls a 4-3, and he plays the 3 up and the 4 down. Some people do it that way, and some people play a 4-3 where they play the 4 up and the 3 down. The difference between the 2 plays is very, very slight. It's less than 1% between all those plays. And by the way, in a money game and in normal match scores, actually it's probably a little bit better to just bring 2 checkers off the 13. But let's say he makes this play and he plays the 3 up and the 4 down. How would you play a 2-1 now? There's just so many fun ways to think about just the first 2 rolls, and if you really understand them and study them, it will help you with your future rolls. So if you think that you would come down to here with the 2 and split with the 1, that's not a bad play, but the problem with that is you're giving him 10s and 7s to hit you here, and you haven't frozen any checkers there. You could slot, but you're giving him a double shot now. The answer is you hit with the 2, and then the 1 becomes pretty obvious. You split the back checker with the 1. Let's just see what our friend says. It says I'm right because I'm so smart, because I have studied these thoroughly and know them well. But again, the important thing isn't just to know what's right, it's to know why it's right. You're unstacking your stacked 6 point. You start out with way too many checkers here and here. So unstacking, or as a lot of people call it, developing these checkers and getting them into play, is helpful. Taking away half his roll is helpful. Remember I told you how beautiful it was when we put a checker on our 9 point for next time, all the great things we can do with it. That's the position he's in now too. If we don't muck him up a little bit and make him take half of his roll away by having to come in from the bar, he's going to make his bar point, 5 point, or 4 point with a lot of numbers because this checker is here. So we made it a lot tougher for him. How bad is it to get hit here? Well, we rolled a 2-1. That's a pretty bad racing number anyway. We're probably not going to be doing too well in the race. It's not time to give up on the race. You don't just give up, but you just look at what is your better game plan. And right now, a hitting game plan, or getting into a back game if we get hit, or maybe priming him if we don't get hit, might be a much better game plan than just trying to play quietly and play a racing number. Another way to play quietly is to just come up 24-21. You can see what a bad play that is. It gives them all kinds of numbers to hit you and point on you on this side of the board, and to do some damage by either running or making an advanced taker on this side. So hitting becomes the play. Let's take a less obvious play. Let's say that he plays a 2-1 with a split, and now we roll a 2-1. How would you play it now? Well, again, what do we gain by splitting? He still has 3 checkers on his on his 8 point here, so we don't really gain a lot by splitting our back checkers. But at the same time, we can't slot, so we could come down, but we're giving him a double shot. So they're all wrong. The answer is pick up your dice and roll again. If your opponent will let you do that, I would strongly recommend it. But the truth of it is that of all the plays, 24-23 and 13-11 make the most sense. He can't hit you out here and do damage here at the same time. So one of the two things is going to happen. If he rolls a 9 or a 10, let me show you that it's the right play first of all. And it's only very slightly. 24-21 is very, very slightly behind it. But if he hits you out here, again, with these 2 checkers split and a checker on the bar, you got a lot of numbers that make his 5 point. A 5-4, 5-3. You have a lot of numbers, if they don't make that point, a 4-2 and a 4-3 make this point. And of course 2-1 and 3-2 make this point. And 3-1. So you've got a lot of really good rolls in return if you get hit here. And if you don't get hit here, this is a very valuable builder for you to do something on this side of the board. It makes your 6-1, makes this point. A 6-4 makes the bar point. 4-1 makes this point. A 4-2, you can make the outside blocking point. Got a lot of good things to do with this. So we haven't even explored all the other possibilities. You know, when there's 36 possible rolls on one side and then 36 on the other, that's 1,296 combinations. But we've generally covered some of the more basic critical things about the first and second roll with 2-1. Are you a 2-1 expert now? No, but you're getting closer. How about how you play 4-3? How about how you play 5-2, 5-1? All of these, much of those, the logic that we just talked about for 2-1 will apply to all the rest of them as well. And this, in my opinion, is how you learn to play good backgammon. Not by just playing matches, not just by playing games. You need to do that too, and studying matches and games to see how they play out. But by taking the game apart and looking at each little segment of the game and mastering it, and then going on to the next segment of the game. And eventually all the pieces come together and you got everything mastered. Tiger Woods mastered golf by studying. He played a lot of golf. Pardon me. But he really worked on his putting for hours. Then he worked on his sand trip for hours. Then he worked on his drives for hours. He wanted to master how to use a pitching wedge. He used a pitching wedge for hours. He worked on the grip. He worked on the stance. He worked on how far back he pulls his arms and what he does with his midsection and what he does with his head and his eyes. And we're doing the same thing. You take it apart, each little part of the game, and study it one at a time, and that's how you improve. That's how you get better, incrementally. It's called deliberate practice. And if you really want to improve in backgammon, I hope this has given you a glimpse of what it takes for the kind of study and how to do it. And by the way, I'm going to be a 2-1 expert for the rest of my life because this reinforces. Every now and then I'll forget, make a mistake. It'll show up on my recorded matches, and I'll say, oh, wait a minute, Phil, am I forgetting this important lesson about how to play 2-1? I'll go back and get a little refresher on it. That's how you get good. Hope this helped you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.